Hey guys, welcome to a new episode of the VSP podcast. Today we're going to go over the throwing athlete, how we approach their training. So let's dive in. If you're a throwing athlete, it's no secret that a lot of people get hurt, right? Especially in the sport of baseball, you see dozens of injuries every single year to the elbow, to the shoulder, and other areas that surround it. So you got to make sure that you prioritize that you're training, right? So here we have a few steps that we take in order to make sure that we do everything we can to keep you healthy. Right, because that's the most important thing, right? We don't want anyone getting hurt. We never want to see an elbow injury. Obviously Tommy John is something that people know about. So it's important that, we take that seriously. So the first thing we do is just take someone through an assessment. Right? We look at shoulder range of motion, the external and internal rotation of the shoulder, right? So how far back can you go? How far forward can you go? Your shoulder flexion, bringing your arm over your head. Your scapular mobility, right? Something that gets overlooked quite often, right? Is those bones on your back, how do they move, right? They support the shoulder. If they're not moving well, it's going to put a lot more stress on the shoulder and potentially the elbow and other areas that don't need the stress. So first we got to do the assessment. So then we have an idea of, right, where you're at, your numbers, right? How much range of motion or stiffness or stability do you lack, right? Because that ball's got to stay inside the socket. That's why you always hear about the rotator cuff. The rotator cuff's job is to keep that ball right in the socket, right? Keep it stable when you're going through that throwing motion. Then we put together that program. The program is really going to be tailored to that specific throwing athlete. Some people are, as I was mentioned before, are super stiff, super loose, super tall, super short, right? Are they super depressed in the shoulders? Maybe they're elevated. Their scap may be super retracted, right? There's a lot of different, individual differences you're going to see in an athlete. And we make sure that in that program, we tailor it to their exact needs. Then throughout the program, it's our job to coach the heck out of it, right? I could write the best program in the world, but that doesn't matter if they don't know how to do it, right? So it's my job each and every session that the athlete understands the right cues, right? What should they feel, right? The exercise, the positioning, the type of weight that they should be using, right? When I see somebody doing an external rotation exercise with, a 20, 25 pound dumbbell, I'm like, what's going on here, right? Using, a lighter weight for smaller muscles is the way to go, especially with those types of exercises. We want to get the specific feelings, right? And the way we typically approach it is, during these types of exercises, we always want to come back to neutral, right? Is the shoulder staying inside the socket? That is the most important thing through all of those exercises. Arm care is built into everything. And one of the more important things is being versatile, right? An athlete may come in, right, and you have a program all set up for them, and they may complain of elbow pain, forearm pain, shoulder pain, right? And it's up to you to be able to adapt on the fly and change up whatever they need, right? Or add in some additional mobility exercises to try to understand what's going on, because those small little issues, right, can start to compound to bigger and bigger and bigger issues. And that's where, then you start missing time, it starts affecting their training, and that's the worst thing that could possibly happen, right? It's the summertime right now. We got a lot of athletes in, baseball players, we have quarterbacks and other overhead athletes. It's our job to make sure they're feeling at their best, right? Once they hit August and they're about to leave, we got to make sure that they have all the tools necessary to, perform at a very, very high level. And that leads me right into one of our last parts is having a pre-throwing routine. Right? I want to make sure that somebody has, a list of exercises that's tailored for them, right? Whether they're, like I was mentioned before, are they super stiff? Are they super loose? Do they have, asymmetries that we need to address? So these lists of exercises are going to be tailored for them so they can properly warm up their shoulder, right? Their hips, their thoracic spine, right? All these important areas so they can throw well, right? And they're pain-free. Right? Because, the best thing that, what I love is when an athlete comes in, maybe they have a little stiffness in the shoulder, and just with a few simple, detailed exercises, right? Mobility drills, stability drills, breathing exercises, they don't have pain, right? And it's just you teaching them how to move correctly, right? Improving their sequencing, improving their coordination, right? Get them to be just, to have some understanding of what's proper arm care, right? Which is always a buzzword that gets thrown around. So we want to assess the athlete. We want to make sure that we tailor the program, be versatile, right? It's okay to adapt and change things on the fly, and give them the tools, right? A pre-throwing routine that is going to be best for them, right? And the other thing I want to add is every exercise is an arm care exercise, right? If somebody's doing a 2 dumbbell split squat and their shoulders are hanging forward in their socket, they're doing more damage than good, right? So just be aware of even, your lower body drills and your core exercises. The shoulder position is important. Every exercise is an opportunity to get better or worse. So take a look at that. One last thing I like to add is, these types of programs that we create for our throwing athletes, right? It takes time, right? You got to be patient with it. Understand it, try to research it. See what the big leaguers are doing, right? See what the quarterbacks, in the NFL, what are they doing for their arm care? All that's really important. So one thing I'll finish up with is, here at VSP, we're really excited. We have our combine coming up July 15th, just over a month away. All of our athletes can compete in it. We actually invite athletes outside of VSP to come, show off, right? We want to see you jump, run, lift heavy, right? It's a lot of fun, and we hope to see you there. Shoot us a message if you have any questions, and tune in next time, guys.